Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. And the name of this song is Stars in Her Skies by Scott Buckley. So today's video is going to be about You Are the Perfect Mirror. It's therapeutic, it's healthy, and it's necessary. It's also chaotic, it's uncertain, and unexpected. So a long time ago, when I was about, I think it was 28 years old or a little bit later, maybe I was around 30, I'm not quite sure. But I went and retrained with a second company. It was John Overdurf. He's a master NLP trainer and also a master trainer of Ericksonian hypnosis. And I remember when I walked into the room one day, starting the class, as I was walking through the door, he kind of went, "Whoa," and I was like, "What?" He goes, "Mike, actually I remember he pulled me back out in the hallway. He goes, "Mike, you need to know something." I was like, "Well, what's that?" He goes, "You are the perfect mirror." Now, he had a really big smile, a very happy, positive smile when he said this, so I knew it was a very positive thing, and I kind of looked at him and was like, "Oh, thanks," and then he kind of walked away, and I walked into class with this big question mark, like, what's this guy talking about? So, you've probably heard that, especially when you're talking about narcissists and narcissist abuse. A narcissist will mirror you, okay? But that's a completely different, I don't even want to say technique, because they are doing a technique, but what you're doing is pure. It's kind of funny because it's almost the inverse of what a narcissist is doing. What they're doing is they are copying you like a recorder, like a video and audio recorder. They're copying you and then they play it back to you. And that's the same thing an infant does when it's first born up until it's about 6.5 years old. They just record you blindly without any judgment, without any question, and then they literally become you. This is called imprinting. Now, when a baby does that, that's normal. But when a grown man does that, that's a little freaky. Now here's the next step of matching and mirroring. In NLP, you will learn a logical technique. So here's the funny thing. Okay, so let's go back to the first one, imprinting, where it's just blindly recording audio and video without any thoughts or judgment at all. When you're first born, you use your reptilian brain. It's the fight or flight brain, the instinctual brain, and it's also where we imprint from. So that is the infant brain, if we can call it that. So the next step is at around age 7, you begin to match and mirror people, okay? Now they teach this to you in NLP trainings, and it's a socialization skill that humans used to learn unconsciously up until probably about the late 70s or 80s when computers started taking over. So we started to lose the skill of how do we socialize, how do we connect with people. That began to fall away. I mean, if you look at society now, people can't function together. People are having a really, really hard time of getting along, listening to understand. Whereas back in the 70s, I mean, it was just normal. You communicated, you talked, but as we move forward in time, things began to fall apart. Because of computer technology over education, it's almost like we're getting stuck in the imprinting stage. So NLP comes along and says, hey, here's some things that we used to do unconsciously. These are very healthy techniques to not only gain rapport, but also to begin to develop a deeper understanding when you're having a conversation with someone. And that's a really good thing. It opens the door to communication. And yes, I teach rapport skills. So the difference is when you're matching and marrying someone, you're not doing it with your entirety like an infant will do, and you're not recording them, okay? All you're doing is gaining rapport, and here's the other aspect is you're not becoming them. You're just gaining rapport, getting along with them. That's the difference. So in other words, you're not becoming them, which is with narcissists, they become you, and it's kind of weird. So number one, infant stage is imprinting. They record you blindly and then they become that. They play that back, okay? That's imprinting. Number two is when you start to learn social skills, develop, and that's a technique called matching and mirroring. That is different than what narcissists are doing, okay? Narcissists are doing a very unhealthy thing at an adult age. Even at a teenage age, that is very weird. You're only supposed to do that literally like when a baby duck is born, the first thing that they see, they imprint on, and they believe that that's their parent. So if the first thing a baby duck sees is a human, they're like, oh, that's my mom or my dad, and they begin to follow you around and they copy you. They become you. So when a little baby is doing that, it's a very beautiful thing. But after it turns 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, it kind of has to start becoming its own being, which a narcissist never learns how to do. Essentially, the reason being is a narcissist was never required to become its own being, so they got stuck in their reptilian brain. And this is why a lot of people, like, once you get to know me, like, well, that's just stupid. Like, well, yeah, they're using the smallest part of their brain, literally. And because they were never really expected or pushed to become their own person, to grow and develop, they kind of just stayed there, and they really never had any incentive. Now let's go to the third stage. So number one, imprinting. Number two, matching and mirroring as an adult or as a teenager, learning to develop social skills. And number three is when you open up to your right brain, which opens you up to the higher spiritual level. Now this form of mirroring is the advanced form. It's the higher form. It is a pure form. It is a very, very healthy form. But it can also be chaotic, confusing, and it can be unexpected. So there's a major pattern in the universe. And you're listening to this pattern right now. In fact, every single one of my videos that I've made, probably going back about 3 or 4 years, has been repeating the same pattern. It can't not repeat the same pattern. And once again, I discovered it during learning how to teach men how to communicate better with women. Because the pattern exists within everything. So as a child, I was, what's the word, introduced, or not, that's not the right word. It's like I was pushed into this world of music. And I absorbed it. It was surrounding me. It was all encompassing. So as a child, we had moved to Wisconsin for about 6.5 years, 7 years, and it's like everything was about art and music. So I had an art class from second grade on. I was in choir from second grade on, and we also had a music class every semester from second grade on. So I was just what's the word I'm trying to say? Immersed. Yeah, immersed into music. And when Journey came out, the first album my brother actually bought for me on my birthday was Escape. I sang that music every day in the morning, at night time before bed, on weekends for hours. I would play the album over and over. And I would sing my heart out. And then as I got a little bit older, when I say a little bit, I mean probably talking about third, fourth grade, somewhere around there, I began to take guitar lessons. So here I am in choir, music class, art class, listening to Journey. Now I'm taking guitar lessons. I'm doing this all at the same time. And then we moved back to California, and we had this great high school choir teacher, Kathy Bloomer. She's one of the best in the world, for sure, hands down. We went to Hawaii, where only the elite high school choirs were invited. I think there was 300 or 200 high schools that were invited. I can't remember. But you had to be like the best of the best. We took 3 golds and then 2 silvers out of a total possible of 5 medals that could be won. That's how good we were. So music was my life. And I remember Kathy saying something. I don't remember if she said it to me personally or if we were in the entire class, but she had said everything is like music. And I remember looking at her like, what are you talking about? I was a teenage boy. I didn't know. She goes, everything has a crescendo. If you notice, music starts slow or soft, or maybe with a boom, and then it drops back down, and it builds, and it builds, and it begins to go back down, and then it builds, and it builds, and then it goes back down. It's like it's teasing you, and then it builds, and it builds, and and then it goes back down, and then it begins again to start slow and to rock and go back and forth, and it goes up and builds, and the tension builds, and then there's an explosion. And she said, haven't you noticed how music does this? And then she started talking about movies. Well, a really good movie will do the same thing. It'll start maybe with a bang, or it might just start slow and quiet. And it kind of goes through this subtle slowness, and it begins to slowly build, and it goes through this whole thing. And it goes up and then down, up and then down and up, and then the tension really builds, and then there is a crescendo. And it's the same thing with a good writer who writes a book. It has to take you through these peaks and these valleys, these highs and these lows, and then a little bit of a high, and then a little bit higher mid, and then it goes back down, and then it goes a little higher, and then it goes back down. And so everything in life is like this, including the Big Bang. So the universe, how am I going to go into this? Okay, so let's just put it this way. Even childbirth is like this. It's like there's a Big Bang, and then you are born. And all of a sudden everything calms back down, and you start to look around, and there's clarity. So as I began to work with my clients, now I may have also learned this during an NLP training and didn't quite get it, but they're talking about how communication is important, and they may have been the ones who said books are like this in movies, but I learned this from NLP for sure also, but it was like everything isn't like this peak. It's like you got to go down into the valleys, you got to go to the highs, you got to go to the mids, the lows, up and down, and literally it's exactly like sex. And I remember one day I was getting really frustrated working with this client, helping him to understand, because he goes, yeah, I can get a date, but then after the first or second date, they never want to talk to me again. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, this guy was a very monotone kind of guy. He talked with the same tone all the time, blah, blah. It was just really boring. And of course he didn't listen to music much, didn't really care much for music. He was just in his logical brain, which is this black and white either or brain. It's monotone. It's not very exciting, guys. So I literally had to explain to him communication, and this is when I put the pieces together. Is that communication is like music. It's you start slow and you build and then you come back down. You begin to build more and a little more. You go a little bit higher, then back down, up and up and up and down until you build the tension to where there's a crescendo, to where there literally is an orgasm. And this is the way life is, and it's sex. It's you start slow and you go to a dinner. It's romantic, it's soft, it's smooth, it's sensual, it's warm, it's comforting, and you begin to kiss and you begin to make love, and then it goes up and it goes down, almost there, almost, and it literally, it's like it's teasing you until the point of the final explosion, an orgasm. Well, let's look at it at a cosmic level, the biggest picture of all. The Big Bang. The Big Bang, in a sense, was an explosion. It was an orgasm. And then afterwards, everything just started to flow. The universe began to expand. Now here's something I bet a lot of you don't know about the universe that actually has been happening for eons. The universe expands for so many years, and then it starts to contract for so many years, and then it expands even further out, and eventually it contracts. It's like it's breathing in and it's breathing out, just like the internal and external awareness, or the internal and external energies of life. Your lungs breathe in and you breathe out. Your heart pulls the blood in and then it pushes the blood out. Everything is like this. The water that comes through your sink comes in and then it goes back out through the bottom. Okay, everything in life is like, so you eat food in and then it goes back out. Every single thing in life works this way. There are basic core patterns to the universe and everything within it. I mean, look at the waves. Look at the image right now. The waves crash in, and then the waves get pulled back out. The waves crash in, and the waves pull out. Now, what you'll notice if you've spent a lot of time at beaches, which I have because I live on the West Coast, is you can sit there for hours watching it get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then these massive waves crash and crash in, then it begins to go back down. It starts the ebb and flow once again. This is life. Listen to it. Pay attention to it. Be in tune with it. People are like, oh, where'd you learn this? I didn't. I put it together. It's like I got one piece in music, and I got one piece in this, one piece in that, and learned some things from NLP. And one is I just saw it when it came to dating relationships. And I was like, oh, so I got this guy I actually had him join a choir. I had him take, I think it was guitar lessons, and I had him start listening to emotional music. So he began to develop his right brain. Because it's not either or, left or right, it's both external and internal, left brain and right brain. Breathing in and breathing out. So when I was talking about every video that I made, I'm talking about the music. Like right now, we just got past a mini crescendo or a little mountain, and then it dropped back down and it started slow. And here it goes, it's starting to build up again. I believe we're going into the next age, the age of Aquarius, where we are beginning to learn to go with the flow, not against the flow. We are shifting from blind faith, blindly believing because the group believes, into knowing. That's what the age of Aquarius is all about. The old one, the age of Pisces that we just came out of, was about believing even though we didn't know. It was groupthink. Pisces is all about being underneath the water, the ocean, the darkness, and it's dark, so you don't actually know. So you just, well, you got to believe what everyone else tells you to believe, because it's too dark to actually see or to actually know. So it was all about force, like, well, this is what we want to do, and we just got to fight against this. Whereas if you start to open up and pay attention to the ocean waves, it's just like music. Sometimes the waves are going to crash very small, nice and smooth. Even sometimes it'll be completely smooth. But then there's going to be times when it begins to build, and there's these massive waves crashing on the ocean, and you can't let your children go out there. So now it's all about awareness. It's about knowing. It's about seeing with your own eyes and knowing from actual physical experience. So the healthy form of mirroring is essentially when you are just you. It's purity. You are a natural born healer. Now here is the chaos, the explosion, the birth of the universe, is when people meet you, you're a perfect mirror. And the challenge with that is you're not actually mirroring them like a narcissist imprinting or matching and mirroring the techniques that you can learn to use to gain rapport. It's because you are just you. You're not trying to become like them or act like them or even gain rhythm with them. You are just in your own rhythm. You're in your own flow. You're in your own space. And by being you, they begin to see themselves. And here's the thing, you were born doing this. You were just born yourself, which is really rare, especially in the last age of Pisces. In each age, I forget how many hundreds or thousands, I think it's 800 or 1200 years per age. I don't remember how many years it is, but it's a long time. It might even be 2000 years, which would make sense because that's when Jesus, died on the cross, etc. And we're at that time for the shift that was always meant to happen. Meaning the shift that Jesus brought to the world. Everything that he did had a purpose that is just right now at a crescendo. This is the completion of what he came here to do. See, we lived in a world where everyone told you growing up, be yourself, be an individual, think for yourself. And the minute you did, they were like, what's wrong with you? Why can't you just fit in like everyone else? You go away to college and your mother tells you, just do what you want to do. It's your life. Study what you want to study, blah, blah, blah. Be yourself. So you pick a degree, you go after it, and then your mother's like, why are you doing that? You shouldn't do that. You should just get something that's safe and something that fits in. And you're kind of, here's what it is. It's like, be yourself, think for yourself, be your own person. And then the minute you do it, they gaslight you and they punish you for doing the very thing that they told you to do. That was the age of Pisces. So for those of us who were born empaths or light workers or whatever you want to call it, is we were born ourselves. And this was to cause the trigger of other people to reflect on themselves and who they are. Now, did we actually purposely do tactics and techniques to trigger them? No, not at all. Literally, we were just born a light. We were born in darkness, but we were the light in the darkness. We still are. See, most people walk through life not knowing who they are, not really understanding what they are or what they do, not even understanding. Okay, here's a perfect example. There's a group of Christians, and they're supposed to be really good people and follow the teachings of Jesus and on and on. Now, I'm not really knocking the church. What I'm knocking is, this is a good example to help you understand what I'm talking about. And yet, the minute someone walks into this store, public store, by the way, that just happens to be in a city of Christians, and if somebody walks in who's different, they go on the attack. They talk behind the person's back. They have this thing going on behind the scenes with the other coworkers, and they even share it with some of the customers. Hey, look at that person. And they shame the person. They humiliate the person. They're not nice at all. But they preach acceptance in the church. And when they get in their own groups, they preach acceptance to each other. They talk about acceptance. And then they talk to other people that don't go to their church, and they preach acceptance. But then they don't do acceptance. That is the age of Pisces. So in walks someone who is literally of the light. And they walk in with this light, and they don't like it because it shows them who they are. It's literally like turning on a light in a dark room, and they suddenly begin to realize, holy shit, I've been preaching A, but doing the opposite B. Thou shalt not judge, as they point their finger at you, yelling and judging you. And your light reveals this to themselves. Now here's the funny thing. We've been doing this to ourselves our entire life because we are self-reflection machines. In other words, we look inwards at ourselves literally. We don't know how to live any other way. In fact, when we become external, it's called not being grounded, and we don't like that. We like to be grounded. We like to feel what we feel. We like to be tuned in to our five senses, to ourselves. But other people, they don't do that. In fact, that's a very foreign concept. It's a foreign world to them. Because to them, it's all about believing. To us, it's all about knowing. Kind of interesting, isn't it? So the world, for a long, long time, literally 2,000 years, has been going through this age of saying one thing, but then doing the other thing, turning a blind eye to their own selves of what they're doing. But when other people do it, they pull that finger out because they're the external people. They can see themselves in you, but they can't see themselves in themselves. But what happens is when they get around you, when you start to get into their lives, you're a self-reflecting machine. You're constantly looking inwards, the internal world, looking within. It causes them to unconsciously begin to look within for the first time in their entire lives, and they start seeing themselves for who they truly are, not just what they say, but what they do. And this starts to freak them out because they're starting to see things inside themselves that they don't like. And then they start to push it onto you. No, it's you. No, it's you. They're trying to reverse that mirror back out to you. They don't want to look inside and see who they truly are. This upsets them. This enrages them. They start to lose their mind. And no, it's not me. It's you. Not me. It's you. Whereas us, we are, what's the word I'm looking for? We are pattern experts. We are the experts of seeing our own patterns. And when we start to see a pattern, we're like, oh, wait a minute, this has been going on for a while. We self-reflect. All right, let's take me for example. I've been in therapy since I can remember. I've been going to personal development seminars, NLP, hypnosis, energy healing. Why? Because I wanted to heal what was inside me. I do a lot of personal work, almost daily. Meditation, reading books, techniques, internal work, and on and on. And here's another thing. I still have an energy healer / personal development coach. I also have another coach that I turn to when I'm struggling with internal issues. And I have a feeling a lot of you guys are like that as well. In fact, watching my videos, that's a really good sign, because this is all. How many times you heard me talk about look within, internal awareness, and techniques on how to ground yourself, deep breathing? These are all things to reconnect with yourself inside. Over the years, I've had clients who they wanted the gold, but they didn't want to do the work to get the reward, to get the results that they came for. So when I started teaching them, like, hey, your power comes from connecting with yourself inside. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, man. And they blow off the techniques, because when the clients that I have taken and taught them how to open up, they're like, whoa, what's this? But then, oh, screw this, when they close right back up. Those are the people that don't want to do the internal work. So you came into this world, call it a spiritual mirror or a healing mirror. You're not actually doing anything to anyone. You are just a self-reflecting internal right brain being. And unconsciously, people begin to gain rapport with the people they spend time with, and they start to do the things that they're doing unconsciously. And they start to do it. And when they start to do this self-reflection, they're like they don't like to do it. And this is where the crescendo, the chaos begins. They yell, they scream, they blame, they point, they reverse blame, they reverse shift, they shame back onto you. It's they don't want to deal with their stuff. They would rather just, hey, I'm going to make more money. If I make more money, then I'm going to feel good about myself. When I make $100,000 a year, then I'll feel good. And then after that, like, I still don't feel good. Well, I got to make more money. Once I make $200,000, once I buy a Mercedes Benz and a BMW, and then it's got to be something else. It's got to be more. So it could be anyone. It's not just Christians. This could be people the furthest thing away from God or Christianity. It's they have this image of, I'm this perfect being, or I'm damn near perfect, and I'm this and I'm that. And when you come along and they start to self-reflect and they start to see their own stuff, it's like no, they don't want to deal with that. They don't want to even imagine that they're not this perfect image. And what happens is they don't accept their imperfections. They don't accept that they're not perfect. And because of that, they don't accept themselves. Instead, they go around hurting other people and pointing out and saying, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. And their whole life becomes this external judgment of hell and damnation onto everyone they meet, even the people they're close to. Now here's the funny thing, because we were the ones that they did this so much to, it caused us to be self-reflecting beings. It's kind of it's like a double whammy. On the one hand, we're like, yeah, like I grew up just believing I was this horrible monster, because that's all I ever heard, that's all I ever knew from everybody. And so I went to all this therapy, and all my therapists were like, no, you're not actually a bad person. You need to learn to stand up for yourself. You need to see who you are versus who other, like that was a big thing. I had to learn the distinction between myself and other people. I had to be like, oh, that's not my shit, that's their shit. Whereas on the other side, they have to realize like, oh, it's not that person, it's actually my shit. And those kind of people, they don't want to own up to their own shit. Whereas us, we were always told everything is your shit. And this is why it was really hard to fix yourself, because you weren't fixing your own shit. You were trying to fix other people's shit. It was never your stuff. It was theirs. But they damn sure told you that it was yours. So here's the funny thing, that was part of our own self-reflection. Like our shit was going, wait a minute, so that's not my shit? That's it's kind of such a, what's the word I'm looking, it's like a chaotic dynamic. Because now they have to go, wait a minute, that's not his shit, that's mine? And the therapist is like, yeah. It's not even a therapist, it's just by being around you, they have to start looking within, because they start to gain rapport with you unconsciously. Because human beings have this, I'm going to call it a machine, this program, where we gain rapport with each other. So the more you spend time with someone, you begin to gain rapport, you start to become like them. And all of a sudden, if they start hanging out with an internal being, someone that looks within at their own self, a self-reflecting being, they start to self-reflect, and this is what causes the chaotic dynamic when you're dealing with someone who doesn't like to deal with their own shit. So your mission on this planet was never easy, especially as a child, because you physically couldn't physically defend yourself, and a lot of us were physically abused on an extreme level. Not to mention, we were gaslighted by adults. We were manipulated. We were mind screwed. So the people around you got really upset, because these people do not want to look within. They want to point and blame. It's not me. I'm good. You're bad. And so we are at a crescendo right now, where a lot of us, light warriors, our light is getting bright. For some of you, your light just turned on in the last 4 or 5 years. And this is happening throughout the whole world. Look at what's going on with the whole world. Nobody wants to take responsibility for what they're doing. And yet, we can see it now. Whereas before, in the murkiness of Pisces, someone would say, oh, I didn't do that. And like, well, it's actually on video. I mean, we're watching you do it. Well, yeah, but, and now they're going to tell you what to believe. And you're like, oh, okay, well, this is groupthink, and this is what I believe. So even though I see it with my own eyes, I don't believe it. That's called gaslighting. And that was happening on the masses, on a mass level. You would have hundreds of thousands of people watching the Olympics or some event, and somebody would do this horrendous thing, and it's on video from 5 different angles, and we can see that they did it. But then when they were interviewed afterwards, say, well, here's the reason, you got to understand, and they would give you some bullshit excuse to believe. The age of Pisces is believing. The age of Aquarius is knowing. So in the age of Pisces, it was all based on what group was in charge. And this is what we believe, even though we can see and hear with our own eyes and ears that that's not true, we're going to go with the belief. Again, this is the ultimate form of gaslighting on a mass level. Again, logic brain is about believing opinions and theories. It's not about reality. The right brain is about the 5 senses: see, hear, feel, smell, and taste. This is about knowing. You punched me in the face, I saw it, and I felt it, and I know it. Where they're going to say, well, don't believe what you actually saw, felt, and experienced. What I want you to believe is what I want you to believe. And that is gaslighting. And they've been using it on us for thousands of years to abuse us, to punish us, to blame us for their own stuff. The reason why you understand this now, the reason why you're starting to see this now, here's what's going on. There's a big thing going on with Caitlin Clark in women's basketball. She is getting abused, punished. Even her own coach isn't there for us. And it's unbelievable. And yet they'll interview the girls afterwards. Like, well, you know, you got to understand. And what's happening, though, is other professional basketball players, especially in the men's division, are like, you're full of shit. That's not what happened. It's on goddamn video. We can see what you did. You punched her in the face. You punched her in the chest. You knocked her down. She didn't do it. And they're trying to blame shift everything on her. And yet this is the most innocent, pure person on the planet. And it's all caught on these professional camera people who are really good. And it's caught from 5 different angles. And we're like, what are you talking about? Like, look right there. You knocked her on her ass from behind. You swiped her and knocked her head and she flipped over. Like, and then they'll complain like, oh, I can't believe they called it the penalty. Like, dude, that was like literally the most blatant penalty in the world. What are you talking about? Now imagine if she actually stood up for herself and started to fight back. Oh, the blame shifting would be on. So you guys can do it, but when she defends and protects herself, all of a sudden it's a problem. But here's the difference. Everybody is seeing it. Everyone's making social media, from Charles Barkley to LeBron James to all these world famous people. Like, no, that's not, like, no. What you're saying is a lie. What we're seeing is the truth. The world is waking up. The chaos that we've been going through is finally being called for what it is. People are not letting people get away with this stuff anymore. They're calling them on it. Because the light has finally been turned on. Now here's the deal. It's not about punishing people. It's about becoming more of who you truly are. It's about seeing what's not working. Why am I doing this? It's about seeing this stuff and then healing it and clearing it so you can become more of who you truly are on the inside. And then this becomes a reflection of who you are on the outside. This is how you make a better world. By becoming more and more awesome. It's about the expansion of awesome, about becoming more awesome. It's not about deflecting, it's not about blame shifting, it's not about hiding from yourself. It's about connecting with yourself, becoming more of yourself. Because honestly, who you truly are on the inside, and I mean the real you, not the abused you, not the traumatized you, but the real you, without all that stuff, is absolutely awesome. And that is what the world needs. So remember, we are at a precipice. We are at the peak of all peaks, the crescendo of all crescendos. And just like childbirth, it was chaotic, it was painful, it hurt, even for the child. And that's really who I'm talking about, the baby. But when you came out, there was this release, there was this relaxation, there was this calm. We're almost there. I know it's been tough, I know it's been unbelievably unbearable. But you're getting stronger, you're getting smarter, and you're starting to see what's really been going on. It's gonna get better. That's what I'm saying. Hey, this is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Please click subscribe, click the like button, make a comment. If you like this video, go ahead and make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box. God bless you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.